Hello everyone, Jimmy is with you. I am glad to see you all again on my channel. Thank you to everyone who supports me with likes and subscriptions to the channel. It is very motivating to please you with new videos every day. And so, what are we waiting for? Let's start. First story and the second part from the user Guilty Dance. Let's listen. For context, I am currently a college freshman. I am on a full ride to my university. Every semester, I get a check sent to my house to pay off my housing costs, which is about $9,000. My unemployed father got evicted from my old address because he wasn't paying rent, so my family started living in a hotel. I was questioning how they were paying for the hotel, considering it was $150 a night. Turns out, my father used my college check to cash out and pay for the hotel for 2 months. I begged him to pay off my college housing costs for 2 months straight. He lied to me, telling me that it was attached to some funds, which were hard to get out. Very confusing, but keep in mind I have absolutely zero financial literacy, and my father never went into depth. I brushed it off, hoping that everything would work for the best. My college housing gave my father a deadline to pay off housing costs, November 1st. I was stressed for 2 months, unable to eat well, sleep, socialize, etc. If my dad doesn't pay it off, I may or may not have to drop out. When the deadline hit, I called my dad and asked him why he hadn't paid off my housing costs. He finally revealed that he used the check on the hotel we were living in. I was furious and I started interrogating him like a prosecutor. He blamed the family for being responsible for using my college money, not himself, and also blamed me. He lent me allowance money for 2 months, telling me that it was from my relatives when it was actually from my $9,000 housing check. I asked him why he would do this, and he said that he didn't want to stress me out. I cried, telling him I worked way too hard in high school for me to drop out. I said that he owed me an apology 3 times over the phone, but he refused because he thought he had done nothing wrong since he was providing for the family. I asked him again, and he said sorry in a mocking voice. I told him that he was full of trash, and he started saying that he wants to put a gun to his head and kill himself, and it will all be on me. This is not the first time he has done that. I told him to do it, and I hung up. My mom called me, and I informed her about the situation. She told me to apologize to my dad, and I told her, as psychotic as I may sound, I have no remorse, especially after what he did. My mom threatened to disown me, but I somehow mended things with them for 3 weeks. It is currently Thanksgiving break, and my father still didn't pay off my check, and he said that he would get money Saturday to pay it off. My mom told me again to apologize to him after he paid my housing costs, and I said I would avoid conflict. But I think I'm way too stubborn to apologize, especially because I genuinely think I have nothing to be sorry for. My dad never fully apologized and made a joke out of me to the family. Author update this story. First and foremost, immediately after this happened, I managed to get a separate debit card without my parents knowing. I don't have a job now, but I'm looking to get one later on in the semester. I didn't go to the financial aid center because my dad somehow managed to pay me back. I'm going under the assumption that it's through my grandmother's social security checks. Last December, after weeks of calling my father to make up for my scholarship money and pay me back, he finally sent me a check for $9,000. The check came in my dorm mail around midnight. I was asleep by then, and my dad was spam calling my phone to tell me it was in the mail. I didn't call him back until 1 in the afternoon because I had an exam that day. He started cursing at me, telling me how he couldn't sleep all night because I didn't answer my phone. I talked back and said, "The stress you put me through for 3 months by lying about my scholarship check is nothing compared to the stress you went through for a day." He started insulting me in every way possible, telling me that I was spoiled. I swore back saying, "Are you serious?" And he hung up. Moments later, my dad made my mom call me because he didn't want to argue with me. She screamed at me saying that I should always have respect for him as a father and that I should apologize for swearing. I said that yes, I did swear at him, but he did too, calling me a bunch of slurs and whatnot. She also accused me of purposely ignoring them when I made it clear several times that I was asleep and I had an exam at 9 in the morning, hence not calling them at midnight. I told her that we shouldn't even have this talk because he was clearly in the wrong in this entire situation, and every other kid would have gone to the financial aid center and my dad would have gotten in trouble. My mom misunderstood me for saying that I was going to report my dad. She had a mental breakdown and hung up. Moments later, my dad called and told me to go ahead and report him because I would be going to jail instead of him because he sent me some of the money from the check, which is dump. I called him out on his dump, and he said that he was permanently severing ties so I could learn my lesson. He hung up. I didn't call them for a week until I realized that I didn't have a place to stay for winter break. My dorm closed. I swallowed my pride and called them back to apologize. They said they'll accept me back to the family. This honestly still keeps me up at night, but I literally didn't have a choice but to stay with them over break. Over break, they've noticed that I'm way more cold and distant towards them, and they still wonder why. Luckily, I got the $9K check from my university to pay for this semester's housing fees. The best thing that came out of this is that I ended up reconnecting with my estranged sister, female 25. Long story short, my father financially abused my sister for years, maxing out her credit cards and leaving her $20K in debt. They cut all ties a year ago after my sister started dating a guy they didn't approve of. When I was on good terms with them, they painted her as the bad guy, telling me that she betrayed them by choosing her boyfriend over the entire family. I also didn't know that my dad financially abused her. Turns out she was in the same situation I was in and ended up dropping out because my dad didn't let her take out a student loan. I talked to my sister, and she said that she was honestly glad that she severed ties with them because she's finally financially independent, even if she's not financially stable. We're closer than ever, and I probably consider her as a shoulder to lean on. Mentally, I'm really not doing well. I'm generally stoic, but this is taking a hard emotional toll on me because my family was my world. Before college, I always knew my father was insane, but my mother was my ride or die. I told her everything. I helped her through her marital problems. She told me everything. And the fact that she chose my abusive, unemployed father, the man that she always talked about wanting to divorce, over her daughter is heartbreaking. She still expects me to be her armchair therapist, and she told me she wants me to act like how I did before. I told her over break that no matter what she does, she will never mend back the trust I had for her then. And my father, despite his flaws, I never expected him to use my check. He put such a huge emphasis on education and told me he wanted me to have the life he never had. And knowing he would sacrifice my education just so he could live in a fancy $150 hotel is very disheartening. Recently, I've been very isolated. I still talk to a few people. My grades are falling, and I haven't been eating or sleeping well. Maybe this situation should be a wake-up call for me, but I've come to the point where I'm completely apathetic about everything. I refrain from drugs, thankfully, but even so, I feel like my life is on autopilot. What I think about this story. Ope's parents are the absolute worst. Lying, using scumbags who would steal from their children. The best revenge is for OP to finish their degree and live their best life with their parents nowhere in it. And therapy. Lots of therapy to handle the fact that their parents utterly failed them. Let's check user comment. The best thing you can do for yourself is to complete your education. Stay focused on school and strive to do your best. Make friends and maintain contact with your sister. Also, seek out counseling at your school. They can help you deal with your family issues. The next story from user Maxi, let's listen. My girlfriend 30 and I 29 back in 2020 decided to move out of state and start living together after over 10 years of friendship and 2 years of dating. We got an apartment space with her college roommate, who we were also friends with, and it was a long adventure of learning to live with someone, adjusting, compromising, and understanding how and why someone lives the way they do. Eventually, the college roommate moved out 2 years later, and while we love her to death, we struggled to take care of her 2 cats that she adopted while we took care of our own 2 as well. We got to live together as just us 2 for 8 months, and we were on a steady path of improving both our individual lives and our relationship until my GF thought to invite her sister to live with us. To give context, my girlfriend came from a hellishly strict household, from no internet or going out till an adult, high expectations in school, so on. Her and her sister would endure their drunken dad, who'd always put them on edge when he was around, force them to hide in their rooms, and then berate them from outside their door. It was so much that my GF actually ran away, almost started up a new life in a different state until guilt brought her back. And while things were talked out, The issues never were resolved. What's worse was her sister, who'd put some blame on her from time to time for whenever her dad targeted her when she was not around, forcing more guilt. Moving out was my Jeff's second chance of trying to be free. My girlfriend invited her sister out to live with us because she also felt like she needed to get out, and out of kindness, my girlfriend offered. We drove to her with a U-Haul, helped pack her things, then carried everything into our space within a day. A year has passed, and it's only been negative. Her sister also has 2 cats, and once again, we had to help take care of them. But compared to our old roommate, her sister expects us to. Don't let her 2 cats enter our room. Don't let our 2 cats enter her room. Stop our cats from being near her door around 3 a.m. Don't let the cats interact, and so on. We had to cage our cats temporarily because when we are both at work, she doesn't want to handle any of the cats. She drinks occasionally and sometimes goes into a spiral that forces my GF to take care of her. We've tried talking, and while they talked it out, nothing gets resolved. My GF just feels on edge when her sister is around, has to hide with the cats in our room, and if something went wrong, we hear her berate us near our door. Sound familiar? With our lease finally ending soon, I've been trying to convince my GF to move to a new place, but would leave her sister screwed with no place to go. We can't think of any solutions, and while I don't socialize with her sister much at all, even after I and my girlfriend spoke our mind, nothing really got through. I want us to get out, but then I'm potentially leaving someone homeless. Eta? Author add the additional information. Thank you for the long written advice. I had just shown my girlfriend this post, and we've been reading together the comments so far, and she's both happy and sad to hear it, as some of the things I have already said to her just in a different way, but she needed convincing that this is the right move. My girlfriend is strong, like so strong. I remember she was involved in a carjacking, and it took her months to finally be vulnerable and cry about it, so it hurt to see how often she cried throughout this whole year, more than I have ever seen my whole time knowing her. She teared up after I read this comment aloud, but in a good way, because she was scared that her and myself would be bad in trying to find peace living alone. As for inviting the boyfriend, 27-something, we've been friends with him for a good several or so years, before he got together with my GF's sister. Me, my GF, and the sister's BF came to the idea that he come here, he work, and then all 4 of us can pitch in and get a big house for all of us to live together. Yeah, we were naive. I'd be much more comfortable with us moving out if he had a job, because he's been here for 9 months, but he hasn't. Our plan is to enjoy the holidays, visit my family, and then once New Year's passes, we will tell them the news. It gives them 5 months before the lease ends, and then we can also see what her BF decides to do, whether he wants to fly back or stay here and actually work things out. It just sucks cause we both are anxious about the long 5 months, as her sister's reaction will decide how we live for the remaining time here. Author update the story. A while ago, I made a post explaining a situation where my girlfriend's sister started living with us, and it's been hell. I had deleted the post instead of muting the notifications by accident, as I didn't expect it to gain traction. When it asked if I was sure, I didn't realize what for lol. But for a version, girlfriend moved out of abusive home. She offered her sister a space in our house to escape abusive home. She ends up being abusive. We flew her boyfriend out here so she can be happy. Lives with us for a year, with no job. We don't want to live with them anymore. I created a post asking if I was in the wrong and how to approach the situation. If anyone needs more context, I'll gladly fill you in. The post I made was unanimous in saying, we just need to tell them and leave. Most were kind. Some called us, but I can't blame them. Well, good news for anyone who saw the OG post and for the people just joining in, but we did tell them in the beginning of January. We were extremely anxious about it, but when we talked about it, we felt relief off our shoulders. Of course, her sister cried about it, saying a lot of things to try to convince us to stay. And we firmly just said we wanted to leave. We did not say because of her, we simply said we wanted to be on our own since the last 5 years living out on our own, it was never us two. Since we had a roommate for the first 3 years, and now her sister. She admitted defeat and said she was fine with it, and now we're moving out in May once our lease ends. It doesn't come without the weekly comments to guilt us to stay, all from her sister, which we have had answers for each one. I don't want us to lost contact or stop talking after all this. We always invite them out to eat or explore, play games, watch movies, bring them with us to visit our respective families for the holidays. Always a no. Doesn't help every time she does try to talk to us, it ends in her guilting or blaming my girlfriend. It's hard to find a job nowadays. I don't know if boyfriend's name can help me with paying for a new space. It's now been 1 year since he's been here. We can say for certain he only applied to one place and gave us no update. I'm sure him saying he doesn't want to work somewhere that pays him below X amount doesn't mean anything. There's plenty more, but we've been growing thicker skin and now just looking forward to living just used together. Might not necessarily need a post, but just wanted to make this too, thank the people on here that encouraged or kicked our asses to take a stand. Is there anything we should plan ahead for in handling a person with this kind of personality? That what I think about this story, I can't get over the fact that they caged their cats during the day to please her sister. Why didn't they let the cats in one room or just let them roam? I don't understand what was the sister's issue with their presence, and what did she do with her cats during the day? OP and his GF are huge unwise. They would rather neglect and abuse their pets so they don't have to stand up to the sister. Poor cats. Let's check the user comments. People who are calling the girlfriend spineless have never grown up in an abusive home. And it shows. The GF has been conditioned from childhood to put others before herself, to placate the person who gets abusive, to avoid all conflict with them. She would feel incredibly guilty to be putting her needs and wants above the emotional and physical needs of her sister. She needs therapy as she faces this huge step. Glad her boyfriend is gently pushing her to establish boundaries, a little bit at a time. With therapy and a supportive partner, she can do it. Thanks to everyone who watched to the end. I really appreciate your support, and thanks to everyone who was at the first part today. I love everyone.